Hi everybody, so good to have you here. My name is Kathy Merkel-Roddy and it's truly a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about my story, and I'm going to also reveal all of the things that I did when I was healing my spasmodic dysphonia. So I know it's a tough thing to handle, and we're told some lies about it, and I'm going to get to the bottom of some of that stuff tonight. But I'm going to wait a couple minutes until some people come on, because usually it takes a few minutes for everybody to get on a live broadcast. So in the meantime, I have an idea. Let's do some box breathing, because this is going to be something that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later in the video too. This is a tool that we can use whenever we are feeling a little out of sorts. And actually, we don't even have to be feeling out of sorts in any way, shape, or form to use this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to recommend that we use it as just like a preventative. So it's super easy. All it is you inhale for a count of 3 or 4. I don't know, everybody's lung capacity is different. We'll go with 3 for tonight, just so we can reach more people with that. So we're going to inhale for 3, we're going to hold it for 3, and we're going to release for 3, and we're going to hold the exhale for 3. So let's do a few of those. So we're going to inhale, hold, release, and hold. Again, let's do it again. In, hold, exhale, and hold. How about one more time? We'll go hold, release, hold. I don't know about you, but I already feel calmer. So I just wanted to set my intention for this broadcast before I got into it, because I think it's important that we do that. Start setting intentions for everything that we do. And my intention for you all today is that you receive everything that you need from this talk to enrich, ignite, and enhance your healing journey, so that you can fully heal yourself and get your life back. So, and that is also in the highest good of all. So always my intention is for the highest good of everybody. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So I came down full-fledged with spasmodic dysphonia in 2018. It had been coming on for about a year prior to that, but I wasn't aware of what was happening, and it didn't fully impair my every speaking moment until July of 2018, when I had a traumatic event happen in my life, and it set me on a course of a downward spiral, not only in my voice. I couldn't speak normally anymore. And then in addition to that, I also had a billion other symptoms that came on at that same time. So that was very hard to deal with at the time, but also it was a great clue for me, because it helped me later on kind of navigate my healing journey, because I knew that it all arrived together at the same time. So I knew that it was related, and I also knew that it was related to the trauma, but I didn't know how to process that at the time. I didn't know what to do with all of that. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the wherewithal. And so about 4 months into my journey, after I had completely lost my ability to speak clearly, a friend of mine sent me a healing video about the healing benefits of celery juice. So I gave it a look, and I was like, wow, okay. So Anthony William was the one speaking in this video, and he talks about how a lot of our neurological issues and other ailments as well are caused by root causes from viruses such as Epstein-Barr virus and shingles. And so I decided that that sounded pretty substantial to me. I was like, wow. Okay, I knew I had had mono when I was 12, so I knew I had Epstein-Barr in my body, and I also had felt some tinges of chronic fatigue on and off, and some brain fog and some other things too throughout my life. So I knew that this sounded kind of plausible. And it's funny because as I was going through my journey early on in my, when my voice started misfiring, basically, I was a professional singer for over 30 years. And suddenly I had this trouble kind of controlling my voice towards the end of the engagement. So I'd be singing, and then all of a sudden I'd go to hit that high note, and suddenly I tanked it. So I was just unsure what that was all about, and through all of my pursuits with the ear, nose, and throat docs, I would tell each one, I saw like a few different ones, and I would tell them each my story because there was a few triggers that came on. And this actually was before the traumatic event happened. So this was back in 2017 that I started pursuing some sort of diagnosis or like some help with it. But so I would tell all of the doctors my journey. I would say, okay, I had the flu twice, I had a mold exposure, I had a vaccine, I had a this, I had a that, and I had a bunch of stuff. So I think all of that together added the toxicity in my body. It just suddenly got overwhelmed. And then when that traumatic event happened, then that just sent me over the edge. So I was like, okay. None of the doctors paid a bit of attention to that whole like story leading up to my problems. So I have to say that because you have to become your own investigator, right? You have to look into your own health and say, okay, the doctor is probably just going to be looking at one piece of it and not really fully looking at you as a whole person, unless you go to a functional medicine doctor, which that is a little more hopeful, but still a lot of them don't have all the pieces figured out. They have several of them. As a matter of fact, along my journey, I did go to a functional neurologist at one point, and he did have some of the right stuff figured out. He had figured out that that probably it was brought on by some of the toxins that I had gotten exposed to. He knew enough to say you need to be taking lysine and blah blah blah, but again, he wasn't able to fully help me either because of the fact that he didn't have all the information either. So anyway, so luckily I found this video. A good friend of mine sent me the video on the celery juice about 4 months into my full-fledged inability to speak. So I'm pretty lucky because I know that I could have floundered and gone from doctor to doctor. When the ENTs and the speech pathologist said the word spasmodic dysphonia and referred me to a movement disorder clinic, I was like, okay, what do you do for this? This seems kind of lame, and what can they do for me? And they said, well, they can give you some Botox injections, and sometimes that corrects the situation. Even back then, I just knew that it was a combination of things that had happened to me. I felt it come on so suddenly. I just knew that there was a reason, and so I was not on board with putting more toxins. I mean, I'm like, Botox is food poisoning. Why would I put more toxins in my body? I already know I'm having an issue with toxins. So anyway, so found the medical medium information, and immediately I did what I don't recommend anyone else do, and I jumped right in. And I pretty much, after about a month of dabbling, of just trying to get a handle on what this information was all about, I started a 369 original cleanse. Now, my body was nowhere near ready for that cleanse because I had come off of a ketogenic diet previously for the previous year and a half. So I was nowhere near ready to process things out of my body. My lymphatic system was likely like clogged to the max. I had so many toxins just swimming around. So when my liver released those toxins when I did that first cleanse, actually the first 5 cleanses that I did, it was just kind of a miserable experience for me because I wasn't ready. And you have to prep your body. The body doesn't like to be shocked. So I did all the wrong things. I jumped from keto to vegan in a day. I jumped right on a cleanse. I did all the things hardcore, which, eventually that hard work paid off and it was great. But also, it might have made my journey a lot harder than it needed to be at the time. So, anyway, flash forward about a year into my journey, I finally was beating my head against the wall and just trying. I didn't realize the concept of less is more sometimes. Not doing all the things at once, especially if you have a lot of toxicity in your body. I didn't realize that you really need to go slow on this and implement changes little by little. So, anyway, I just was at wit's end, and I did hire a practitioner to help me kind of sort through. And so she was the first person that introduced that concept to me of slowing things down and not going so aggressively and maybe taking away some of the supplements instead of doing so many, etc., etc. So, but interestingly, I was like, I need my voice back. I need my voice back. At this point, I was just hoping to reignite my singing career. So I was like, I need my voice. I need my voice. Do you think that I will get it back? Do you think that it's possible I will? And she was like, I don't know, maybe. She didn't know. She didn't know for sure because it wasn't written about in the medical medium books, and probably she had never dealt with anyone with spasmodic dysphonia. So she honestly didn't know, but that wasn't like the best response she could have given me. She should have said, I do believe you can. Just so she kept my belief alive, because that's the thing. The belief that you can heal is half the battle. I really do believe that. I really think that if you fully believe that you can afford to be patient, because that whole energy of when am I going to heal, when am I going to heal, is only exacerbating the situation. It's keeping your nervous system in that fight or flight, keeping that adrenaline coursing through our veins. So it's not helpful at all. And so I wish that I had the wholehearted belief that I could heal. I would say 75%, maybe even a little more, maybe 90% belief that I could heal. But I still had that little bit of a shred of a doubt. And I honestly had kind of like made peace with it after a while of doing the protocols. I was like in full acceptance. Even if this doesn't heal my voice, I know it's healing other things in my body. So I'm willing to accept the fact that that just might be the deal, right? Anyway, so carried on, still kept going. And another thing that I did throughout my journey is I've constantly fed my mind with something positive and something uplifting and something hopeful. So I would listen to any healing stories I could find. Nobody, of course, had any about spasmodic dysphonia, but I would just listen to any sort of healing stories in general, because it just made sense to me. We're holistic beings. We heal all together, all the systems at once. It's not like your body, your immune system just picks one area and goes, oh, you have a hurt knee, I'm just going to work on that, and then the rest of it can just go on the back burner. That's not what happens. Our body heals itself holistically from the top to the bottom. So it's important to just bear that in mind. Sometimes, of course, that does make it seem slower when we're healing, because the whole body is healing at once. So imagine the energy and the all the systems that have to conspire to make that happen. So even if it's just chugging along a little inch by inch, the whole body's healing at once. So it's kind of cool. It's pretty miraculous. And the liver knows just the right amount of toxins to release at any given time to let your your body adjust and weed it out without overwhelming your systems with too many toxins, because honestly, if those toxins got to your brain or your heart, you would die. So the liver knows just the right timing of it all. So carried on in my healing journey, had sort of just made peace with whatever it needed to be. And I think that finally, when I could reach that peace and I stopped wondering every day, oh my gosh, am I healing? Am I healing? Am I healing? Then I could finally relax and actually heal, because the nervous system is a big part of this whole component. I'm going to get into that a little bit more in a minute, but I'm going to finish just telling you. So, uh, in the beginning of my journey, there's a few tools of medical mediums that are pretty important to do. So the cell reduce is one. I'm sure you've seen everybody talking about cell reduce. It sort of became this little fad that kind of swept social media there for a minute, but it's important. And the heavy metal detox smoothie is another aspect of the healing that is also very important, because we have to get those metals out, because spasmodic dysphonia, the root cause of spasmodic dysphonia is a certain strain of the Epstein-Barr virus, along with shingles virus, and then in the presence of mercury in the body. So when we have all sorts of heavy metals in our body, I had lots of silver fillings when I was a kid, and I took lots of over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. All of that stuff has mercury in it. So, and then plus, I'm pretty sure I inherited some from my parents too. You can actually inherit them from your folks, believe it or not, as well as the pathogens. So, um, yeah, I feel like I I needed to just get those toxins out, of course, and then hopefully knew that the body has its own innate healing, and I didn't stress out about it as much as I did in the beginning. So finally, about 2 years into my journey, I was able to tolerate all the ingredients for the heavy metal detox smoothie, because always before, when I would I was a very sensitive detoxer, so I was sensitive to supplements and sensitive to the protocols. It would kick up my symptoms versus like relaxing them when I would experience the detox. And so finally, when I got about 2 years in, I could fully tolerate all of the ingredients for the heavy metal detox smoothie in full amounts, because I had just been experimenting with smaller amounts to see if I could tolerate that better prior to that. So about 3 months before my voice fully started coming back, I um, started doing the full recipe of the heavy metal detox smoothie. So that was pretty important. And then I had a big emotional release. It happened the day before Easter, um, and it was 2021, and so I cried my eyes out the day before Easter and just sobbed on the floor, heaved. But I honestly think I released some stored energy in my body that had been in there. And so the very next day, every morning was my ritual was to say my name. So I would always be making my juice, and I would be standing there just saying Kathy Merkel Roddy. Hi, I'm Kathy Merkel Roddy. And I could never get it out without it kind of my voice wavering and breaking and sounding terrible. So I finally I said it, and I was like, "What?" I I said it, repeatedly a few times. My husband woke up shortly thereafter, and he came out, and I was like singing to him. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I listened to my voice, crazy." So that was when, like, then the ball started rolling for me shortly thereafter, like every day. So that day, I could probably talk a good half hour, maybe something like that, and it was fine. The next day, got a little more, like an hour, then a couple hours, then half the day, then the full day, and then so, then all of a sudden I was off to the races, and then I could speak all day, every day. So I was like, my prayers have been answered. Truly, 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 truly. I can't even believe it. Now I remind myself of that every day because even if I start getting, like upset about something or aggravated, I'm like, I promised myself that there was going to be no bad days once I had my voice back. And I have really done my best to stick with that mantra because it meant so much to me to have my voice back. So, yeah, I mean, I would say next to having my children is probably the most important thing I've ever done. So, sorry, I always cry when I talk about it, but it was hard, and I know my heart goes out to every one of you that has to deal with this on a daily basis, because it is. People have no idea what kind of a challenge it is. It just to simply make a phone call or just handle an issue with a cashier or something like that. I understand the phobia. I understand the self doubt. I understand the chinks to your self esteem. All of that stuff. So, the voice is back. And now I'm just putting the pieces together of all of the things. How did I do it? What did I do right? And one of the things that was a more recent lesson for me was the importance of the nervous system component. I was doing my best to calm it down during the time that I was healing. I did do a bit of tapping. I did a little bit of yoga and meditation. I did some breath work and stuff like that. I think we all know those things are great, but I just didn't realize how important. So more recently, I'll tell you a little story. Someone in my family was having a very critical health issue, and it sent me into like a downward spiral because I had just, I feel like my own health has been on the upward trajectory for the past, 4.5 years. So I don't know, I was suddenly thrown out of what I could control for myself and the types of things that were showing up for me. And then there was this other person that was in crisis. And so it kind of spiraled me down because I felt out of control again. So suddenly some of my symptoms started coming back. Like I started getting these terrible anxiety attacks in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. I was just having all sorts of crazy stuff go on. I felt just a lot of things starting to come back. And so I was like, okay, the only thing I have changed is the state of my nervous system and my worry. So I knew that is such an important thing. So I knew I needed to learn some more tools to help people get their nervous system regulated and also my own, because I realized that, we're just on a daily basis, we're ebbing and flowing with the things that happen to us. So we need to manage and learn to have tools that are going to help us get through those tough times, because obviously we can't control life, we can't control the world, things happen. It's just the nature of planet Earth, right? So I believe that spasmodic dysphonia is truly kind of getting stuck in that fight or flight response. I feel like, how, I don't know if you've ever had a bad dream where something bad was happening in the dream and you just couldn't even utter a sound. You couldn't scream out or yell for help or anything like that. It's part of the fight or flight or freeze response. So honestly, I feel like in spasmodic dysphonia, we are stuck in that fight or flight all the time. And our nervous system can't come back to being normal and just calm anymore because it's on a new pathway. So in our brains, when we think a thought or have a traumatic experience, for instance, there's a pathway that gets like embedded in our brains, kind of similar to like if you're in a field and of grass, tall grass, and you walk through the tall grass once, and then the next time you want to walk through that same path, you can walk through it a little bit easier, and then suddenly the path is beaten down, and then you easily walk in that path, and then that becomes your preferred path because the rest of the grass is not like pounded down yet. So our brains are kind of similar to that. So once we've had like a trauma response or a need to be on alert, our brain, then that becomes our default. We're just on that constantly. So you throw in some toxins and some other the pathogens in our bodies that keep the nerves like manually from a external point of view, it's keeping them inflamed, and then we have this thought pattern and this response that's happening over and over again. So I have this really deep-seated belief that we need to try and override that nervous system response so that we can get our nervous systems calmed down enough so that all of the other stuff can fall into place, all of the other things I'm going to talk about. So we want to find ways to calm our nervous system down. So I'll challenge you, and maybe you guys want to grab a piece of paper or something, because as I'm mentioning some of these things, you might want to just jot some things down, because if you're like me, you get off the call and you're like, what did they say again? What were my things? Or like the next day, I'm like, oh yeah, I had some things I wanted to do. What were those things? So if you write them down, and then you can revisit them easily. So one thing you can do is I've been challenging some of my clients to do this. So every time you touch your phone, I want you to do 2 to 3 box breaths whenever you do that. And that becomes sort of like this natural trigger for you to do the box breaths that hopefully will then just calm your nervous system down, even if you don't feel upset at the time, even if you're not having any external anxiety. If you're like me, you have a low level fear and anxiety just constantly running in the background. And you're not even aware of it because that's just your normal state. And then you throw in some things like drinking coffee or doing some adrenalizing activities, some scary movies or scary rides or whatever, skydiving, I don't know, whatever you do. Keeps you elevated in that fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. So definitely the box breathing, and we did that one in the beginning, but it's super simple. Breathe in for 3 or 4, hold for 3 or 4, out for 3 or 4, hold the exhale for 3 or 4. That's super easy. My other go-to for getting my nervous system calmed down is just to go outside, sit in the sun, touch my feet on the earth. I know it sounds cliche and it's so easy. It's so like, duh, like, why are you even talking about this? We all know this. Because how often are you doing it? Just knowing it and doing it are 2 different things. So if you're not already doing it, you don't truly know it. So this is for me too. Like every day I have to go, okay, time to do it. Go outside, come on. And so that's another way. Another way would be to, do a silly dance, put on some fun music. I mean, one of the other things I wanted to talk to you guys about was, calling our old selves back, because there's a part of ourselves that was lost when we got spasmodic dysphonia. We lost a piece of ourselves, and I know I became a completely different person. My personality changed. I went from chatty Cathy to quiet and just sort of low key, because I had to pick my words so carefully. I didn't want to have to exert myself to bring home a silly point, so I just didn't say it, whatever it was. So what I've done lately too for myself, when this is really working well, because I'm remembering a time in my life when I was feeling very powerful and feeling very in flow with the world. I had a kinder tint to what I thought the world was all about. I was full of enthusiasm and optimism about the outcome, and I've started calling her back. I have found a couple pictures actually that I really like from different periods of time in my life. I mean, if you have to go way back into the childhood realm, I get it. That's legit. There's no harm in going in the Wayback Machine to find that because that's how we came into the world. We came into the world knowing our power, knowing that we were worthy, that we were powerful, that we were enough, that we had gifts to offer people in the world around us. And then things happen. The world beats us down and we believe them. That's the thing. People tell us BS stuff about ourselves, or we just like infer their meaning from whatever people say, and we take on those beliefs, which is so sad when we are just such amazing beings, each and every one of us. And the fact that we allow the world to beat us down and believe otherwise, how tragic. And it happens to many people. I would say most. So remembering who you were back in the day where you were like, all right, so what? Relive those glory days. That's all I have to say about it, because you know what? You're calling that part of yourself back. You can listen to the music that you used to listen to during that time frame. You can look at pictures from that time frame and just remember, because that person is still in there. Even though you feel worn out and you feel kind of beaten down, you feel a little bummed out from all of the things that have happened, and some bad things happen, then you get spasmodic dysphonia, and then other things happen as a result of having spasmodic dysphonia. So it's hard. It's a hard road, but it's not permanent. And that's another thing that we're told that's not true, is that this condition is incurable and that we're stuck with it forever. So I'm just here to tell you, I'm here to hold belief for you guys. I know it's possible. I am proof. I am proof for you. I am here to hold belief for you. I am here to be a resource of information for you to use to help yourselves heal, to help the belief that you can heal. So in the nervous system piece is kind of important, but it's also linked to sort of the mindset and the thoughts that we think and the things that we tell ourselves. So you can't, it's all interconnected. So you got to like kind of work on everything at once. That's the thing. I can't just, recommend the celery juice and the heavy metal detox smoothie to you and say, okay, you're going to heal just doing that. Because honestly, we have to feed our souls, we have to feed our minds, we have to master our minds, we have to master our emotions, so that then we can master our bodies. So the thoughts that we think, I want you to just start to pay attention to that inner dialogue that's going on. And for me, like, people are always like, oh, the negative thoughts, and the negative words we use about ourselves, the self-deprecating sentences we say, oh, I'm a hot mess, I'm a this, I'm a whatever. Those are not kind things to say to ourselves. And it matters. It does matter, because we're speaking it into reality. We're taking what was a thought and we're bringing it through energy of speaking it into the 3D world, and when we're hearing it, so it's reinforcing that idea. So it's like this loop that happens. So instead of thinking those negative thoughts, we need to just find a way to adjust those thoughts into maybe something slightly less destructive, maybe a little bit more elevated, maybe a little bit higher up on the scale, the Richter scale of energy, because we all are energy too. So all of this nervous system stuff, in addition to the thoughts, in addition to the vibration that our emotions embody and influence within our body systems, all of it matters. So that's one thing that I've been super digging into for myself, for all my clients, our beliefs, what we believe about ourselves, what we take on as our identity. So, as a spasmodic dysphonia sufferer, it's easy to take that on as a part of our identity. Oh, that's just who I am now, when that's incorrect. So, granted, I have suffered with spasmodic dysphonia, and you can reframe it from saying, "Oh, I'm a person with spasmodic dysphonia." You could say, "I'm a person who has experienced spasmodic dysphonia, but it's temporary and it's something that I have only experienced for part of my life and that I am fully intending to heal." So we just have to be careful how we frame it. So part of that, though, the brain doesn't like to be lied to. So you have to kind of find some beliefs that you can get on board with. So in order for you to fully say, okay, I am a person who experiences spasmodic dysphonia, but I'm going to be healing that soon, you have to really believe that it's possible. So you have to just notice when those thoughts come in. Maybe there's a dialogue or something of something you've heard from someone else saying, "Oh, no, you can't heal it. Oh, this woo-woo stuff is BS. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to put all my eggs in that basket because, I've been burned before, and what's the point? Well, why bother? Because I've tried so many things in the past and it hasn't worked." So these are all things that can come up for us as we're on our journey, and it stems from old programming, or things that we adopted as our beliefs along the way. Didn't realize that we were doing it, but it just happens. Like, things get in to our brain, and then we're just suddenly thinking that, and it's like, eh. You have to also be very careful about who you take advice from and who you listen to. If that person doesn't have a life that you want to create, doesn't have the health that you aspire to, I would say take their comments or their opinions with a grain of salt. These are all very important things to just manage your daily life, because as we're engaging in all of these changes, our nervous system regulation, our thoughts, being aware of our thoughts, and also bringing ourselves back to a more positive spin on things. Some people are going to be like, "That's total BS," and they're going to rain on your parade. They're going to try, and they don't understand. They're jaded for whatever traumas or things that have happened to them. So you got to just let them be on their own path, and you don't have to convince anybody. You don't have to. The proof is in the pudding, right? I would say the fact that you guys can hear me speaking is probably the biggest selling point for what I'm saying to you right now, because obviously the proof is in the pudding. So you can just quietly go about your business and making these changes, and let them see the change in you. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. So we've talked about some mindset stuff. We've talked about the nervous system regulation stuff. Now, the third rung of that, or third leg of the stool, or if you will, I don't know what I'm saying. What kind of analogy am I doing? Anyway, is the body and the detox that needs to occur in order for the body to restore proper functioning. Now, the other two things, the mindset and the emotional calm, the nervous system calmness, are going to lay the groundwork for the healing in the body to occur at a faster rate than it would if we're still in fight or flight all the time, and really like white knuckling this through this process. So I would say some of the most important things about the detox regimen, number one is hydration. So usually when our bodies are super toxic and we have so many pathogens going on, so many metals, we're pretty dehydrated. and we're not properly pooping every day. We're not um, able to probably sweat sometimes. Um, we're not drinking enough water, and it also depends on, or it matters what kind of water we're drinking. It's not just any old water, because I thought I drank a ton of water. I had a constant part of my autoimmune that I haven't had before I even got spasmodic dysphonia was syndrome, which is, it makes you thirsty all the time. So you're constantly thirsty. And so I drank 10 bottles of water a day, no doubt. But I still was dehydrated because that was not living water and it wasn't high quality water. So you got to kind of like pay attention. You want to make sure it's living water by putting a squeeze of lemon in it or some cucumber. And that way your body can also recognize it when it comes straight out the tap or something like that. It's been chemically treated, so your cells don't know really what to do with that kind of water. It's like, speaking of water, I'm gonna take a sip. So it's important what kind of water you drink. That's the first thing. So first thing in the morning, wake up, 16 to 32 ounces of lemon water. Then you wait 30 minutes, and then maybe some celery juice down the pike. Then the smoothie, the heavy metal detox smoothie. That's like a cornerstone of a fantastic morning right there. That's like a winning combination for some tremendous success in your whole day, because you're getting a lot of those things that you need for your body to function all day long first thing in the morning. And so you're making sure it happens. So let's see, I got a question. Can lemon water go in a metal tumbler? I mean, I've done it. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes you gotta pick convenience over everything else, because you're not gonna do it if you can't easily do it. So I would urge you to look for some glass water bottles if you can. So I have those insulated cups or water bottles that are metal, and I have used them upon occasion, but really it's best to do the glass, because the plastic, even if it's BPA free and all that stuff, it's still, you're going to absorb some of the plastics. Now, plastics are super easy to get out of the body. It's not like the metals are the hard part to get out. So use your own judgment. You know what I mean? I would say definitely drink the water, but if you have to put in a metal tumbler, still better than nothing. So then I would say the next thing, order of business, is to bring in a bunch of fruits and vegetables. Most of us are not eating enough fruits and vegetables daily. I remember when the FDA came out with their recommendations, they said 8 to 9 servings of fruit and vegetables. Back, I want to say in the 90s that came out. I was like, who the heck is eating 8 to 9 vegetables a day? Or in fruits. I ate a good amount. I would, even before I got sick, I always ate a salad for lunch. And whenever, seasonal berries were in season, I would always include them in my morning, and try and have a vegetable for dinner. So I probably was having maybe 4 or 5 servings of vegetables, and then maybe a snack of an apple or something throughout the day, or a banana. So I was doing already probably better than most people are doing, but it's still, now looking back on it, the amount of fruit and vegetables that I eat now is crazy. It's mostly that. So bringing those in first before you start, then my next round of advice is to take away the foods that are actually causing inflammation in the body. So medical medium tells us all of these foods are inhibiting our immune system, are feeding the bugs that are causing us to be sick, and kind of slowing down the work. So what are they? They are, I've said this a bunch of times, but so it's eggs, gluten, dairy. Those are the big 3 right there. Get rid of those guys and you're already like home free, because those are kind of the hard ones. But then also soy, corn, pork, and canola oil. Um, so it's it's a challenge. I'm not going to tell you it's super easy to like make sure you get all those things weeded out, but it is easier if you are willing to kind of think of doing most of your food intake as whole plant-based foods. So where we get into some trouble with those things are with the processed foods. If you start reading labels, like, getting really, really strict about reading every label of a food you're going to eat. And there's a lot of times where you're putting that thing back on the shelf, more times than not, honestly. But you'll learn that there are a few select foods, some manufacturers who actually have a conscience and keep their ingredients very clean. So similarly, often restaurants can be a little bit of a challenge too, because every American restaurant cooks with canola oil, or they call it vegetable oil sometimes. But either way, did I mention that in the list? I don't think I did. Well, maybe I did. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm on a tangent now. So canola oil is something we want to avoid, because those industrial oils, the process of making them is incredibly chemically ridden, and it's so processed that it makes it so it's almost as bad for us as like a hydrogenated oil. We all know those are bad. Those have been, banned. Hydrogenated vegetable oils and stuff like that. But what we don't realize is that the canola oil is coming up, up the pike as almost just as bad. So finding restaurants can be a challenge. One thing that is my go-to thing is I always seek out a Thai restaurant. If you find a curry, generally speaking, they don't even put any oil in there. They just use coconut milk. So that's always there's always a Thai restaurant somewhere in a town where if you're traveling or whatever. And then you can find the rare and beautiful restaurants that use just olive oil or coconut oil in their, or avocado oil in their cooking, which that's heaven when you find that, because you feel like a real person. You can go in and like order off the menu and not have to stress out about it. When I was traveling in Greece and Italy last summer, it was such a treat for me, because they generally don't use any canola oil over there. It's all olive oil. And so it was like so liberating to be able to just walk into the restaurant and be like, I'll just have this, this, and this, and not have to stress out about it, because I didn't, fear that they were going to be poisoning me with that canola oil. So anyway, so we're starting to eliminate those foods. But again, as I said before, the body doesn't like to be shocked. So we have to be very, very slow and steady with all of these changes, little by little. Slow and steady wins the race. And if we make a mistake and we have one of those foods that are inflammatory, oh well, it happened. Then we move on the next day and we just, do better and become more vigilant about it. We're works in progress, and we're looking for progress over perfection. We're not looking to be perfect, because we're not going to succeed in that anyway. We're going to drive ourselves crazy. I did that a little bit. I drove myself a little crazy in the beginning because I was pretty militant about it all, and I was pretty strict about it. I'm not telling you guys to like willy-nilly just occasionally once a week go have some inflammatory foods, because it'll be hard to make progress doing it that way. I would say maybe set aside a few months, or 6 months, a year, if you can, or even just a month. Start with a month and just say, all right, this month I'm gonna work towards getting all those foods out of my diet, and then successfully do it for a month. And then you'll start feeling better. You'll notice that your digestion's going to improve. You're going to notice like your poops are going to be amazing. So if you ever suffered from any constipation or anything like that, I trust me when I say that is not a problem on this lifestyle. Now, you become very good friends with your bathroom. throughout this whole process, which is, I don't look at it as a bad thing because I want that stuff out of my body. That's our big elimination pathway. We want to get it out. So, and then we just want to start amping up after we have all of the stuff, the bad stuff out. We want to just start thinking of every meal as an opportunity to maybe bring in as many healing foods as we can. One other crucial thing for people with neurological things, and that includes spasmodic dysphonia, is a lot of leafy greens. So you'll want to find ways I put extra spinach in my morning smoothie. I eat a big salad for lunch every day, and then at night when I usually do a cooked dinner, but a lot of times I'll put it over a bed of greens just to add in some extra greens, because those minerals are going to help us rebuild the neurotransmitters in our brain as well as our neurons, to help those pathways find their way again, to like repair the damaged ones and get those nerves up and running, because that's what we're having is a breakdown between the brain and the throat, so that it's not working properly because there's an impediment there. Probably could be a piece of heavy metal, like a piece of mercury, sitting on that nerve pathway, blocking it and diverting it to something else, so it's not making a clear traffic pattern down to your throat. So anyway, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, those are the good things to start with. I'm not going to overwhelm you I always added in extra juices when I could, just because, again, back to that hydration idea, I wanted to just flush out as much as I could. Plus, juicing is a good way to also get some of those greens in case you don't want to have to chew them all. That's a lot of chewing. As many greens as it's really good to kind of try and aspire to. So I guess the bottom line is, I want you to know that you got this. You can do it, and it's going to be 1% of a change each day, 1% better. We're going to just shoot for 1%. If we can do 1% better tomorrow than we did today, we're on a winning trajectory. And then as we get in kind of the groove of it, then it gains some momentum. As you learn to do the morning routine with the medical medium protocols, it gets easier. You know what you're going to have to do. You don't have to think about it. You know the steps to take. You know how long it's going to take you. There are no surprises. You know how much time to schedule in for the bathroom after you do it, and before you have to walk out the door. All that good stuff. You start learning your rhythms with it. And I just want you to know that I believe in you, and I know you can do this. So I want you to believe in you too, and just let me know how I can help you. I'm here for you whenever you need some support, and that's more than I had when I started. So I feel like it's something pretty substantial that I can be the person for you to look to model for your healing, because I did it. It makes it completely possible for any other person to do it too. All right. I'm sending you guys so much love and so much healing mojo. Oh my gosh. Again, the 1%. 1%. Look at the list of the things you wrote down in this talk. Review it. Remind yourself. And call yourself back. Maybe I'll do a little meditation before I sign off. So I want you guys to just close your eyes for a minute. I want you to picture a beautiful golden light coming down from the heavens, in through your crown chakra, down your body, down through your face, your throat, your chest, your abdomen, your pelvis, down your legs, down through your feet, through your arms, and now at your fingertips. This beautiful light is coming through you, shooting into the ground. At the same time, a beautiful green light is emanating from the center of the earth. Mother Earth is lending you all of her strength up, up, up through the layers of the earth, through the bottom of your feet, through your body, up to meet the white light in the top of your crown chakra. Now I want you to imagine that there's a magnet in the middle of your mind. This is your very own magnet that calls back your energy. It calls back the energy you left. Maybe you had an argument with someone. Maybe you were worried about someone. We leave our energy behind, and we are the only ones who can use it. We need it back. Call it back. The magnet is pulling it back to you. Ever so lovingly, all coming back like a puzzle piece coming into place. At the same time, the magnet is also repelling the other energies that don't belong to us. The energies that belong to other people, the opinions, their judgments, their interactions that sometimes aren't very kind. We'll lovingly send those back. The magnet is sending them back. I just want you to sit there and think about and feel how good it feels to have your energy back. Your full self is returning. You know what to do. You know how to heal. And you're going to do it. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining me. We'll be in touch. Feel free to DM me and reach out if you need some more guidance. All right, we'll talk soon. Take care.